So today we're going to be talking about legacy and digging, and they're both short poems. So first off, what I noticed about the first poem, The Legacy, is that it's about a boy, I assume, talking about his grandfather, and throughout the poem he's talking about the simplicity of his grandfather, like how he only spoke a few words of English and how he was quiet and how he just planted corn and herded sheep. So I think that was really powerful because, yeah, I will let you guys carry on.
Okay, so what I noticed in the poem Digging is that in this poem there were lots of, I guess you can say, details of what the writer saw when he was a child growing up, looking up to his grandfather and his father. I believe this is the use of imagery. If I'm wrong, please correct me, but yeah, that's why I know.
What I noticed in both poems is that they both the speakers are both talking about like someone who's older than them and who they look up to, and yet how do I word this? They admire them, and yet they know what they could never do what they're doing. Like what they're doing is like hardworking, and they're looking. Well, in the first one, like the boy or man or whatever goes to college and he thinks that's foolish because he wants to learn things that are more meaningful, but in the other one he wants to do something more meaningful.
Yeah, I noticed the same thing as you. It's sort of like the opposite in The Legacy. He's saying that he admires the simplicity of his grandfather's life, and then in Digging, at the end, he says, "But I've no spade to follow men like them." So that's basically saying that he's not that type of person. He doesn't have the same values that they had, that his father and his grandfather had. And then he's like living in the modern time, right? So people have different values and different personalities. So simple life like that isn't as fulfilling maybe for someone like living in 2014. But yes, that's what I noticed. Should we?
Why did this happen? Okay, so what you and Laura are saying is that in both poems you notice how both the speakers are talking about what their elders are doing and how it's simple, yet they not only acknowledge it, they appreciate it too, but they don't necessarily go along with it. In The Legacy, I think that this acknowledgement, if that's a word, happened because normally the second generation kind of has a different viewpoint and sometimes rebels. Like, I know from my experience, my parents are really old-fashioned, and obviously growing up in a different world, I'm not. Just like him, he goes to college, but with him, which is different from me, is that he thinks that he's nothing but a poor fool because he, I believe, appreciates the simple things his grandfather taught him over the more complex thing that college taught him.
So what you're saying is that he later comes to the realization that maybe what he valued before wasn't, he realizes that what he, like education is what he valued, wasn't as meaningful as what his grandfather knew, like his knowledge, wisdom, you may say. Okay. I just need to clarify that, sorry. Yeah. Does this happen? Yes.
this happen?
Oh. No? Okay, sorry. Okay, sorry.
Why does this happen? Is that what we're on to?
Yeah, I think Alma explained about that, right? It happens because the old fashioned and the traditions. Okay.
But you can elaborate on it if you want.
Okay.
Whether does this happen? Or in real life.
Why does this happen? I think it happens because, like what Alma said, as more generations happen, and more knowledge comes around, you get more focused on what's now happening compared to what used to be happening. Do you know what I'm saying?
You're living in the now instead of.
But as that is happening, you also have a greater appreciation for what has happened, what has like evolved.
Right,
into
right,
how
okay. Because
society
without it, it
has-
wouldn't have happened.
Yeah.
Right.
Like if nobody started farming, that wouldn't have changed into mechanical farming and into grocery stores and whatnot. Yeah.
Yes, 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 yes,
That's
yes.
the worst explanation ever.
I liked it.
Why?
What do we learn?
What do we learn?
Didn't you have a theme, Laura? Oh, do we? We do.
I think we learn that like there's something to be said for living a simple life, and like there's a certain charm in that, like living like the old-fashioned way. I don't know, farming yourself, like being with nature, and that sort of thing. I think we lose that a lot, especially living in a city. Like for us,
Right. Technology and stuff.
we're very like disconnected from the earth and every like farming. Like we don't know how to do that. Like
Right.
if you were put in front of like a plot of soil, like could you grow like a garden? I don't know if I could do that, but that's probably something really valuable. Like what if there's a zombie apocalypse and then we're all starving and we don't know how to do that? Like there's something to be said for that.
I'd turn into a
Right.
zombie.
I would too.
Oh, where did I put it?
Is it?
That's the thing.
I'm a mess. Get your act together, Laura. What is happening?
No? I think I have it. I think I have it. Are you not filming while
Okay, sorry.
Okay, so what do we learn? Well, I think the similarity, like I said earlier with both of the poems, is that they're both talking about second generation or a few generations after kind of the first generation. And what I took away from these poems was that it's okay to kind of stray away from the lifestyle of previous generations. Like in digging, he says, between my finger and my thumb, the squat pen rests, I'll dig with it. So I think that for him, that was symbolism. So for him, what he loved to do, unlike his fathers or grandfathers, was to write, and I think that's okay. But I also think it's okay to want to go back to the way it used to be. Like in the legacy, he says he's trying to find the way back to the center of the world where grandfathers stood that day, and I think that the appreciation is really important, but not necessarily. Yeah.
I think I remember what it was.
Okay.
The theme that Tiffany and I came up with was that sometimes like the simple things in life are where you learn better appreciation and greater values.
The simple things in life teaches you the greatest values. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, we have 5 seconds. Yes, okay. Okay, bye, Mr. Swan.